Hi, we're Steps.
And we're Dan's special guests on this week's Bizzare Live podcast.
Make sure you hit subscribe while you're here.
It's free and you get a big celeb interview every week with the likes of Take That, Celine Dion and Jerry Halliwell.
Right, ready to start? 3, 2, 1, go.
Steps, let's talk about your Bizzare life. Welcome to your first ever podcast.
Let's talk about Steps, baby.
Let's talk about you and me.
Do you know, I think it's quite amazing that I've got Steps doing a first, because over the last 2 decades, you have pretty much done every type of interview, every type of media appearance possible. So it's quite exciting that you're podcast virgins.
But that's actually, it shows how much the world and our industry has changed as well, you know, because we're coming back after such a long time and there are so many ways you can connect with fans. So yeah, it's really cool.
But can I just give you a huge little individual round of applause?
Why?
Right? Because the last time we had you at Bizzare was to promote the album launch, and I got to listen to the album and I absolutely loved it, but I was obviously worried because in this world of streaming and
You weren't the only one worried.
yeah, exactly. I just thought, can it connect in the same way that it used to? And guys, it was a huge hit.
It connected.
Yeah.
It did connect.
And a huge hit in the charts as well. So a big number 2 album. Obviously it was right in that midst of Ed Sheeran.
Nearly.
And actually, if you just look at mere sales, you guys were on top that week. Yeah. So I love the album, but to have that level of commercial success, I know that's what you really wanted. So how much confidence has that given you now?
Did you hear us all answer at once?
I don't think it's confidence is not the right word. I think that we never take anything for granted. We understand that the game has changed, and we just want to give the fans what we were and what we are hoping to be as well. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
I think it's made it all a bit more positive for us because we were really worried and really concerned, and obviously with the success that it's had, it's sort of, well, for myself anyway, it's brought us back in a way to where we were, which is really nice in this modern day. And like you say, we're concerned where we're going to fit. Well, we're a bit older, aren't we? You know, you're going back 20 years and it was a very different world back then. So,
Well, it was because it was all about individual singles then, and a lot of them. Whereas now, you know, you have a song that potentially has a 6-month sort
Lifespan,
of run. You know, it's very, very different world. But I think the other thing I was happy about is that it shows that if you do produce really good quality pop in this day and age, it can still chart, you know, because everyone's scared of doing that right now because they all want drum and bass or they want to feature on a Calvin Harris track or a Chainsmokers track. So people are quite scared to just do great pop music.
I don't know any of those people you just mentioned.
he lives in the valleys. I think it's about being true to yourself as well, which is a massive thing for us.
Yeah.
We wanted to come back and be who we were with a little hint of what we could be to fit this modern day. And if we came back with something really different and trying to fit in with all the current trends, I think we wouldn't have been true to what Steps is about. And I think that's what our real fans love about us as well.
I think you're right as well. I think ultimately all the songs, all the tracks on the album are actually all really good pop songs. They're not, we've not tried to do anything really out there, and if you listen to it as a kind of a whole body of work, it's a real kind of, you don't want it to end. Even I don't want it to end. When we listen to it, we did a listening party when it was released, and we were on the way to a signing in Birmingham, and we got to the last track and it was like, oh, is that it? It kind of
goes by quick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And as a fan, right, I feel like this reunion is so much more positive than the last one.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Do you feel that as a band?
I think back in 2011, we were kind of chasing our tails. We knew that our record was going to go out with Sony, and so we kind of jumped on board rather than being part of the beginning plans. So. And also because of because we did the Sky Living programme. it was a bit of therapy, and it was actually a necessary thing that we had to do to be where we are today. But obviously there was a lot of press around that, and everyone was, homing on the sort of negative things. But
I think that's how the show was produced. And
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant watch.
Yeah, fantastic watch.
But I mean, Lisa, you must agree that that TV show then led to it all being about your relationships and sort of negative things that had happened, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was a good thing to do, though, because
Definitely.
it meant when we came back to celebrate the 20 years, we didn't need to revisit all of the issues of the past. So we'd addressed it, and we'd done it in a public way, and everybody had the answers they were looking for, and it meant that we could start afresh with these new celebrations.
It is weird, though, because I think as a band, right, as a huge pop band, obviously you never get over quite how you initially split, because it's what all the fans are invested in as well, because I actually Jerry Horner was on the podcast a few weeks back, and she said that now for the first time 20 years on, she's actually started to apologise to fans for leaving the Spice Girls now, but again, she felt like it was a really necessary thing at the time. So tell me now, when you look back, how you all feel about the split. Like, was it the right thing?
I think at the time we would have said no, but now looking back, I think it probably was, because of everything that we're now accomplishing because of that and what happened. And if it didn't happen, we wouldn't have had the reconciliation, we wouldn't have been able to air all our thoughts, all our views, and we probably wouldn't be here now, to be really honest. We probably would have gone on another year or something, it would have fizzled out, or because we've reconciled, we've,
It's a very good word today, Lee.
Sorry, we've patched it all up.
You've never used that
when
word.
you allow me to speak, I'm actually not bad.
Actually, been very well behaved.
He's doing well, actually. He's in the corner.
Sorry, Faye, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it was tough at the time, and it was a surprise, but actually, because we left on a massive... because we left on a high, and we left a massive legacy behind, and it didn't fizzle out, like Lee said. And I think, that is one of the reasons why
There
we've been able
is
to come
something to
back.
be said for going out on top
Totally.
as a pop band, and it is the hardest thing to do. I've just seen that as a great lover of pop music over the years. Very, very
because
few
people
bands.
don't remember the kind of
failure,
the
the
bad
fall.
stuff or the fall. All they ever really remember is how big and how amazing it was. We did end at the end of a massive arena tour, and the album had been #1, and that's what people remember, I guess. So I think it's easy to pick up. You don't kind of go, wasn't it a shame about them when they were really good, but it's kind of gone a bit.
Well, it's like coming back, isn't it? If we'd have come back and it had been a flop, everyone would remember the attempt to come back and it didn't work, rather than the success that we had in the past.
Was it Pete Waterman always say, you're only as good as your last hit?
Yeah.
Luckily, we've had a few hits.
Yeah, but it's like anything. You're only as good as your last job, in any industry. So we're very
Yes,
lucky.
but in other industries, right, this would be a really weird thing when you think about it, because can you imagine? I mean, everyone listening, imagine going back and working with all of your old colleagues from a job
Or
that
back
you
to
loved,
school,
20 years ago, exactly, or going back to uni or with your classmates. Like, obviously, those underlying issues don't totally go away, but I guess there's also a deeper love because you went through these really crazy, intense
I
experiences
don't
together.
think you can really compare this to any other job.
No.
To be really honest. Only us five know what it's like to have travelled the world, to have lived in and out of each other's pockets every day.
In our bubble.
24/7,
And what is it like? What is it
Well,
like?
it's amazing. I love it.
It's crazy.
It is a bit weird.
No day is the same. You get to and because there's so much water under the bridge,
Yeah.
and we've accomplished so many things together. I love these guys and I hate them at the same time. It's like brothers and sisters.
Stay in your corner.
But I can say that to them because I've known them for 20 years and they know that I don't mean that maliciously, and they probably feel the same about me as well.
Yes, we do.
But it's a brother. It's a brother sister.
I love to hate you.
But I text Claire this week or last week. I went, you know what? I love you. and I hate you as well. But that makes us like brothers and sisters, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
It is siblings. It is a family because you love your family and you can't choose your family.
Yeah.
So whatever happens within your family, you're always there for them. And I think it's very similar with this. We're all going to have ups and downs. There's going to be days some of us are sad. There's going to be days some of us are more happy. But we have to bring it into the middle and make it work as a group. And that's something we're very good at.
But we're connected for life, whether we like it or not.
Totally.
So.
But I guess now what must be more difficult, and maybe, tell me, leads to the odd row, is that you're all obviously independent, strong-minded adults who are used to running your own affairs.
But we also have learnt, I hope, the art of compromise as well. Whereas it's not just about you. We have to come together and think about, steps as a band and a business. So, and I think we've done that this time, really well, haven't we?
Your priorities change as you get older, and especially once you've had kids and you've kind of. God, I can't speak. You've got your own family.
Put your teeth
It's
in.
very easy. The things that perhaps 20 years ago that were huge and it really wound you up or you got upset about, that now really
insignificant.
it's nothing. It's and certainly in the day and age that we are living in now, and the things that are going on, and those kind of things that seem like such huge problems to us, it's silly. It's not. They're not a big deal. Then you are able to kind of move forward and compromise, I suppose, which is something that we never did back then. We just kind of all used to
dig your heels in.
Yeah, I guess.
And so let's rewind, because Claire, you brought in today, and we're just having a look through the Music Week magazine from 1998.
Does it still exist? I don't know.
It does, in a slightly slimmed down form, but no, it does exist, and it's still like the Bible for the music industry. But my goodness, that was an era, wasn't it? You're looking at the charts that week, and it was you guys, it was All Saints, it was Spice Girls.
Bewitched.
Exactly. What I'm really fascinated about is what the relationships were like with you guys and the other big pop acts, because obviously you're at all of these big events together, everything from the Smash Hits poll as part of the MTV events, but at the same time the singles charts were deeply competitive.
We'd all share dressing
rooms. So there would normally be us girls in with Bewitched girls, the S Club girls, sometimes the All Saints. Who else? Billy Piper.
Yeah.
So we would all be in one dress, and then the boys would be with. But it was all. Everybody used to just be in and out of each other's dressing rooms, and it was really laid back and quiet. And everyone
was there any rivalry?
I don't think.
Was there a band or a group that Steps was particularly competitive with?
I do remember once.
Me and Jay used to get rivalry
from Five.
Yeah. But it was stitched up from a press magazine at the time. It wasn't actually us two, but it became a big deal
with Westlife as well once. That was a misquote in a thing, and then all of a sudden we were.
I've worked with Jay since.
So
it's fine. We've worked together since, so we were laughing about it.
What about the Spice Girls? Well, who are you going to say, Claire?
Spice Girls. Do you remember when we went to Top of the Pops?
Yeah.
First time we met them, and they were sitting in the corridor just outside the makeup room, and we walked past, and we were like, they asked us. Actually, it was Victoria, and she said, "Are we Steps?" And we came into the makeup room, and we were like, "Oh my God, they spoke to us!" Amazing.
We were probably like a tornado coming down the corridor. So it was all new to us. We were all excited, and I think for them it was. It was sort of near the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and as we know, we don't know actually, but when you're getting near the end, I'm sure you've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah, there's different pressures.
And,
but who were you going to say, Claire?
I was going to say, I remember when, I think it was it 70s Mania? And it was the first time when Hearsay had just kind of won.
We were in black and white suits, weren't we? Like
and
flares.
I remember we kind of, these new kids on the block that were a mixed band, and we were a bit kind of like, trying to, how dare they try and steal our crown? But
what have we started?
Yeah, but then I remember sitting up in the bar afterwards with Kim and having a chat, and it was all until that moment that you meet people. I think it's you can kind of get that thing in your brain where it might be a bit of rivalry and we're against each other, but it wasn't at all.
But I think everybody
expected. You guys went the distance, although I did love Hearsay as well.
Oh, me too, yeah.
And don't you guys think, actually, we were saying in the office the other day, don't you think there is really room in the market for a young, mixed pop group again?
No!
Not that you guys are not young.
Ask us in a few years and we'll
let you know.
What are you trying to say?
Exactly.
It's one of the reasons we are successful again, is because that nobody has filled our shoes. There isn't a successful
and lots have tried though, haven't they?
But very unsuccessfully, on the whole.
I didn't say that, you said that.
Yeah.
There's been some success, though, with some of them.
Yeah, of course. But not for a long time.
But, all right, so name one. Who's tried to become a boy-girl band. So
Well,
we had...
It's not try. There's been quite a few out there.
I don't know. Hearsay.
You've had
Do you remember
Hearsay.
Scooch?
Scooch, yeah, they did Eurovision.
You've had
very
Liberty
badly.
X.
Liberty. Oh, they were great.
Which
Liberty X.
they had some success.
But they
recently.
came from Hearsay, and I mean, honestly, Lee, we're talking a decade ago now, more than a decade ago. That's what I mean. I mean, S Club Juniors was probably the last big one, obviously spun off from S Club 7.
Do you remember years ago a band called Deuce?
They were before.
Yeah, I know, but I loved Deuce.
Yeah, I do.
I think it's
remember
nice
them.
in a way. I know you've obviously got your ABBA, and then there was Bucks Fizz
Yeah.
and things like
Five
that.
Star.
5 Star. But then I think we came along and it opened a whole new doorway
Yeah.
for pop, and then suddenly this mixed band. Because I remember when we were first together, we saw all these girl bands, these boy bands. We were thinking, how can we be a band? How can we look the same, be the same? Because they're all dressing the same, they're
Yeah.
doing this, and that's where our colour theme sort
Yeah.
of came in. So we always tried to match, because
Yeah.
if we walked in a room, we wanted people to go, oh yeah, they're pop
Yeah.
steps.
That's tropical.
Well,
vibes.
I loved, it was famous, wasn't it? Pete Waterman said ABBA on speed,
Yes.
which I think still stands.
Definitely.
I think it's a good thing.
20 years on.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Not real speed, though, of course.
I used to remember us like
Musically.
Just walked really quick.
we'd always go to like the Paul Winners Party or Top of the Pops, and there would be all these acts who had multi-million-pound record companies behind them, and they'd be there in all the the newest clothes and the coolest gear,
Yeah.
and we'd walk in with like our little colourful tropical fruit top shop.
We'd find a pair of trousers or a top that we liked, and we'd give it to the stylist and say, "Can you make those in the
Yeah.
colour or the fabric that we were going to have?"
Because we used to watch like All Saints rehearse and go, God, they're so cool, and their Maharushi trousers and their combats, and we'd be there, in our crop tops and
Bright turquoise.
So this rainbow walks on stage.
yeah, absolutely. But hey, it worked.
And what about, one of the real things that came out of 90s pop groups, though, was this idea of financial exploitation by the people who were behind the groups. It was very, very connected with S Club 7 in particular, right? Who were very open about the fact that they walked away from that band with nothing financially, nothing to set them up. Where was Steps on that sort of
I think we
on
got
that scale?
I think we were quite clever and quite lucky. I'm not saying nothing was ever done behind four walls that we never knew about, but generally in business meetings we would be part of it. We were directors of our own company. We had quite a lot of say in what went on.
How did you exert that control? Because when you begin with, I presume you just want to be in the band,
We had really good financial advice, actually,
Yeah.
and our management were really into not spending too much on frivolous things,
Yeah.
because actually your record company is essentially just like a lending bank, and if
Yeah.
you put too much in, you're not going to get anything
Yeah.
out. So things like, I remember talking about tour buses, instead of having like a sunbed fitted in the tour
yeah,
bus
yeah.
and a bar at the back and all
We
all
just
these
had the
amazing
bar.
things.
Just have a skylight.
We popped to the news act. No, but we were kind of, that was explained to us early on, actually, and so
Yeah.
we understood that, I think, and that was one of the most.
I don't think we were in our
also
team. I know you were, but the majority of us, we weren't like 16, 17, not really understanding the world. We were early 20s for some of us, having a little bit of world knowledge, and I think, like Faye says, then you've got to understand that if you're getting on a flight, if you're getting on a bus, if you're wherever you're
paying.
going, it is actually coming out of your money at the end of the day. And a lot of people don't know that when they get in.
And I think that is really one of the reasons why we toured so much, because obviously we didn't write our own material, so we never were going to make a lot of money from records. So we kind of sacrificed a lot of other territories around the world, really, so we could tour here. So that was really, which is great. It stood us in really good stead, because now we've got a reputation and a legacy in that area where it means we can hopefully just kind of tour as and when we want to.
But I guess it makes it harder in terms of enduring financial success, doesn't it? Because you don't have those royalties that pour in like they do for some.
I mean, we still
some
get.
groups.
To be fair, we still get a nice present at Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean,
But can you-
we
can
sold,
you-
That's
luckily,
just from my wife.
I mean,
I don't know what your present is.
the volume of records we sold meant
Yeah.
that and because we weren't getting
Yeah.
private jets and helicopters and things all the time, that we did make money,
Yeah.
but perhaps not as much as
It's
we
not
would
what-
have if we'd have written the
Yeah.
whole album.
It's
because
not what
we-
But
people
it's just
think,
Yeah.
is it?
No.
but it's just a bit of a different era now as well, because what would happen today once you'd had your successful first album is you would co-write on these tracks, and that's obviously been a really clever technique for a lot of the modern pop bands. You know, if you look at One Direction or an act like that, you know, they had co-writes on. They worked with big songwriters, you know, on the vast majority of their songs, and part of that is about, I guess, leaving a financial legacy. Because I know with the big reunion, which obviously came after your comeback, and I think was sparked by the huge success of it, you know, the stories were so sad. You know, when you look at what happened to the guys from Blue and Five and bankruptcy, and
very, very easy to be a pop star in terms of when somebody is. If you don't ask the questions, then you don't know. And I think you just assume someone else is paying for it. And I think that is that's why the story is the same so often, because when someone else is organising your life as to the extent that it was back then, and you don't ask those questions, then it is a surprise at the end when you think, well, how comes I haven't...
It's easy to let it run away with itself,
we've sold 10 million albums. Why haven't I earned a penny? It's because you've spent 60 million on all the stuff that goes around it.
But it makes me so sad because I see it happening again today. Yeah. It's a constant cycle with young pop stars who think they have the world, who have everything, who rent the expensive apartment in Mayfair rather than putting a deposit on a house and where they're from.
It is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It is a job. It's not... back in the it's easy to imagine that when you're in that bubble, you know, this is your life and it's your but it's a part of your life that is the area where you're meant to earn your money, I guess. Well, and it's a job, and
it makes me laugh when people say, oh my god, they're coming back, what are they doing this for, the money? And it's because it's our job. This is what we do.
But it is lucky that you guys all did have, because you know when you've got 5 you really increase the chances of one going totally off the rails or doing something really stupid, you know, and stopping you ever making a comeback. But it never
What do you mean,
happened.
having the 5 of us to do the comeback?
No. What I just mean is the chances of
there's
having
more chances somebody
5 people
do
get
lolly.
through that level of fame.
Oh,
Yeah,
I guess,
exactly.
okay.
Do you see what I mean?
But these days, you know, and we feel like we've really earned our stripes.
Yeah.
Especially recently with, you know, the Ed Sheeran and our
yeah.
album, is that we have been completely in control of this project. You know, we are our own record company. We've sourced our own songwriters. Our management have been fantastic. So to have us battle with Ed Sheeran, who has a multi-million pound record company behind him, you know, we're so chuffed with that. You know, little steps, you know, challenging, you know, it's David and Goliath, isn't it? It's amazing.
Ed Sheeran said as well, didn't he, that, you know, to sell what we sold in this modern day is phenomenal success.
Did he?
Yeah, because I did a radio interview and
I saw it,
they told me to send a message to Ed, which I did, and then they played it to him and put it on the website. I was like, oh my cringe. I've never met the guy, I'm so sorry. But then he replied, and that was his sort of reply. He said, you know, it's amazing to sell what they've sold, so it shows they're doing something right.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk to each of you a little bit individually now. Just one question each. Who wants to kick off?
Quick, go out the room.
Just something each. Okay, Claire. So, Claire, I mean, your journey, right, was absolutely fascinating because you've spoken in detail about the depression you suffered, you know, the bulimia you suffered. Obviously, you've battled with your weight, and I think now you feel, it seems like you're healthier and happier than you've been in a long time. Do you agree with that?
Definitely. I think, God, it's such a cliche, but life, it is a journey, isn't it? And I think I was really young when I got in the band, and it was very up and down anyway. I don't... this depression thing's come up quite a lot lately. I don't remember.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, no, I was never really...
Actually,
Quash the rumours now. Put it
that's
out there.
not.
You're in such a good place now. I know this is your question, but I've never seen you as happy. No, seriously.
No, I think I'm older. I'm wiser. I'm 40 in a couple of months, and
Say it again. Go on.
I'm 40 in a couple of months.
It's fine, don't worry.
I'm not yet.
But you look so good. Do you know what I mean? And I'm someone that I battle with my weight, so I know how great that can make you feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you are
Do you know
looking
what
as
I
good
think?
as you are.
And the whole weight thing is something, and certainly now is something I've been kind of trying to get away from because
otherwise you just talk about it
Because I just talk about it all the time,
Yeah.
and it's the only thing that,
Yeah.
and it was the only thing that I talked about for a long time. But over the last kind of
couple of years or so, I've remembered why I'm here in the first place, and that is because of Steps, and it's because I'm a singer, and that's what I want to do, and especially
and also you've shown you can keep the weight off, so then it doesn't become
and then
a
that's
the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah,
by the way,
it is, but this time I
world.
think I really did do it for me. It wasn't for it wasn't for a DVD or for a magazine, or it really was for me, and I maintaining it has always been the problem, and so far, touch wood, it just makes me laugh that every time we're on TV it's Claire Shock's fans with dramatic weight loss. I've been like this for 3 years now, so it's not.
But it's
really
a lot
shock.
better than the other type
Yes,
of shock.
I know it's nice, but
no, you're doing
I am in
right.
a good place.
H, the thing that really fascinates me with your journey, of course, is that we were in such a different time of sexuality. Again, in the late 90s, the early noughties, and obviously in recent years you've become a huge advocate, for the gay. Well, I think so, because people have just been really inspired by your journey and your passion for becoming a dad, and I think one of the things definitely, as someone who's gay myself, seeing famous people go down that journey of parenthood. I keep using that horrible word journey, but that becoming dads is really inspiring. But of course, in the band, you weren't able to have that positive experience at the time, and obviously that's when you were at the peak of your fame. Do you think that added to the tension sometimes that you had to deal with, because you just weren't able to really be who you would have wanted to be?
I think, we like you just said, we live in a very different day and age now. Back then we had to be seen as, young, free and single and straight. And I was obviously none of those. It was a very different era, and our record company would always try and pair us up with, there was a thing that Kiwi and I from Bewitched were having a bit of a snog, but we weren't. We were just really good friends, and we still are. We live in a very different age now, and there are so many amazing role models out there, from, people who do podcasts or vlogs. I think if I was going to do it all again, then it would be a very different story.
Well, I just think it probably wouldn't have been an issue.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, if you look at who's the guy from Years and Years? He's such an amazing.
Although in saying that, I am still shocked on a daily basis by the number of high-profile entertainers of all ages who remain in the closet. It's still not as easy as people think to come out.
Yeah, and especially in any industry, I guess. Actors are still in the closet.
Football players.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes on my Twitter feed, I'll get the trolls and I'll get hideous things said to me. But
sorry, I'll stop doing that, mate.
Yeah, we live in a very different day and age, but there are still a few people that spoil it.
And Lisa, obviously, you had quite a bruising experience post Steps in terms of your solo career. Looking back,
This is very morbid, Dan. Where are we going with this?
No, but it's just that people want to
be light at the end of the tunnel.
This is talk. Well, there is. There's amazing light at the end of the tunnel, obviously. But looking back now, do you regret putting that much pressure on yourself so publicly?
No, I don't see it as bruising. I was lucky enough to write a few songs, and I didn't have a manager because obviously they'd gone off with these two. So I was managerless. So I did it by myself, and I wrote songs. I went around the record companies, and I got myself a record deal.
Yeah.
And with that, I was lucky enough to buy a really nice house for my family. So I actually see it as a positive, and I now have a solo album that I can show to my children, and they play it. And I still get really positive things on Twitter saying how much
there were
they
some great
enjoy
songs
it.
on it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you live and learn.
Faye, something light, breezy, fun.
Yes, God, we're going to need
Is
therapy
it
after
true
this.
that you do pole dancing?
Yes, it is.
Tell me about that.
Only for her husband.
Actually, never for my husband. He didn't even come and see me in the show that I was doing.
So is it genuinely just a fitness thing?
No, it was for a show. I was doing a show called The Naked Truth, and it was set in a pole dancing class, and that's how and why. But because of my,
But do you do it for exercise now?
I did for a while, but I've actually got a shoulder injury now, and it's really it's quite stressful on your shoulders. But so I've been in theatre. That's my day job, and I get to learn lots of fun and exciting and weird and wonderful things through it. So yeah.
And Lee, obviously for you, personal training became a big passion, and your body, and looking good.
It's my passion as well.
What, Lee's body?
Exactly.
Just covering myself up now.
Was that a real? Because it's so different, obviously, to what you had been doing. Where did you get the focus on that?
I think basically, besides all the acting and musicals and things like that I've done, obviously.
Yeah, which you did do as well. You obviously did the West End.
Since Steps and that. Fitness really came first for me. Since the 8 years old, I think, if I remember. I did martial arts. I was a footballer for many years, almost became pro. So before theatre and dancing and that, it was always fitness. Always was. So in a weird way, I sort of went back to it rather than finding it. I just went back to where my heart was from being a young kid. And it's always been either fitness or performing. Yeah. That's the two things in the world that I love doing.
And do you still have like a really intense regime now?
Yeah, but it's like I say to anybody, you've got to try and make it your lifestyle, really. I think that the whole thing of these fad diets and suddenly you've got to blast out for the beach body bikini season and this, that and the other, if you make it a lifestyle and something you just generally do all the time, then it's no stress and it's no big deal because it's part of your life. It's hard to get there, don't get me wrong.
Boring though, isn't it?
A lot of people say that.
Drag.
But,
We learned something new about Lee yesterday, and I'll tell you.
Oh, tell me.
Just before Steps, Lee
No,
went...
it wasn't just before Steps.
All right,
I was
well,
about 16 or 17
I don't care.
years old.
We'll combining performing and the Body Beautiful. Lee went for an audition to be a stripper.
We didn't know this.
Brilliant.
I found that out yesterday.
But actually,
And you didn't pass the audition?
Well, hang on. Just let me just put this. H says things, and this will go in the Sun newspaper tomorrow that Lee was a stripper when he wasn't. So basically, many years ago, I went to Performing Arts College before I came down south to go to Lanes, and I did a fashion show. And on that fashion show, somebody came up to me and said to me, I have a group, and I would like you to audition for my group. And I was only about 16, 17 years old. So I sort of thought, I think I can do this. So I put a little track together, and because I was at dance college at the time, I got the teacher to choreograph a routine. I worked out a routine. I got on the train. Shut up! And I was going to Liverpool.
H is just starting to strip.
I know. Basically, the end of the story is I actually never went to the audition. I got off the train. I sort of walked up to where the audition was, and I said to myself, you know what? I actually really don't want to do this. This isn't my career. This isn't where I want to go. And I turned around, walked back to the train, and went home. So I never actually went to the audition.
I know. I get to see it every day anyway.
But I was asked to audition to go into a male group, let's say. But I never actually went through with it. So.
Brilliant. I love that. So it's our quick fire rounds now. So this is how bizarre, okay? So you guys just yell out your name if you want to answer, okay? But one person has to answer all of these things. So what is the most bizarre story you have read about yourself?
Oh, Faye.
Faye.
Okay, my first headline, and it was in, can I name the paper or
Yeah.
not? The Sunday People was Faye makes love in clay like Swayze. I walked round to my local newsagents to pick it up because I was so scared, and apparently Mum and Dad had a potting shed and I used to take boys into it. So they don't, and I never have, but that was my first, crazy
I
headline.
can add to that. I got one that said 5, 6, 7, 8 times a night.
Oh! They're underestimated, absolutely. What is the most bizarre dream you've ever had about a celebrity?
Oh, I had one about Lee, but I can't go into that.
Stop it.
Tell us, H. Tell us.
Stop it.
No, I'm joking.
No, we take that. Love it. What is the most bizarre party you have attended, and who else was there?
Party.
I don't know if it was bizarre. This is
Claire.
Claire. I don't know if it's bizarre, but I went to a party at Bryan Adams' house once.
It's quite bizarre.
It was, yeah. And
Was it
you
fun?
had to dress, it was gangsters and moles. And he had a macrobiotic chef making all the food in his kitchen. And then there was fireworks on the roof.
So it was really healthy food.
I was there.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
I forgot Age was there as well. I thought it was just me.
I remember it wasn't a party. Well, it was kind of the after show. And we were doing the MTV Awards in Ireland or Milan or something like that. And
Quite
I had
different, those two
No,
places.
but it was somewhere very glam.
Into one.
Did they have a leaning tower?
And I remember I had the most rotten cold, and I was sat in the taxi, the limo queue at the end, and I was sat with Missy Elliott, Alicia Silverstone, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and they were all literally going, "Are you okay?" Giving me tissues, and literally seeing me into a cab to go to the hotel. That was my most surreal moment.
Mine
is
was
surreal.
Dinner with Michael Jackson.
Come
Oh,
Yeah, that's
you
awful.
just
Tell this
cannot beat
story.
it.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yeah.
See what I did
So
there?
basically, a few celebrities from the UK and America were invited over to Bahrain to go to the F1. And
What's the F1?
Formula Racing.
Sorry.
You know
Racing.
that. You know that.
I
And
didn't know that.
Whilst we were there,
Even I know that.
And whilst we were there, we were invited to dinner in the palace. So we all went along, and at the time Michael Jackson was living there and hanging out there with the Sultan. And we walked in and he was there. So we all had dinner with Michael Jackson, which was really cool. He was so sweet. He was lovely.
Wow.
And all he wanted to talk about was music. And I walked in, I said, "Hi, I'm from a pop group called Steps." No, it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
I think MJ loved Steps.
And my best friend took a picture of me and Michael, and she was shaking so much it's all blurred. So it's not a very good record, but it was.
But you've got
It's
it.
a great story.
All right, brilliant. This is now digital detox. Okay, so if you had to choose just one of these things for the rest of your life, so again, one of you just take this first thing that comes into your head. So one contact in your WhatsApp for the rest of your life,
you can
and
only have
one
one
person
contact.
you can communicate with.
We've got
a group, yeah.
So the Steps WhatsApp.
Steps group, that works. One Spotify playlist on repeat for the rest of your life.
I loved, Nashville, the series.
Yeah.
I love that. I play all those songs.
That's a good one.
I've just done my own Spotify playlist, haven't we? We've all done one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to take that.
Yeah, that's
I need to follow that. One app on your phone.
Train line.
Very good. One gadget you can't live without.
Phone, I
It's got to be a
guess.
phone for everyone, that, hasn't it?
And one TV channel.
Sky Atlantic.
CBBS.
Now, this is going to be really tough for you guys, okay? This is shuffle, delete, repeat, okay? When you get 3 famous songs, probably Steps songs, and you have to choose which one you'd put on shuffle, which one you'd delete forevermore, and which one you'd keep playing. So, we'll kick off with Steps classics. So, the 3 options, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stomp. And Deeper Shade of Blue. Which would you shuffle? Which would you delete? Which would you repeat?
5, 6, 7, 8, delete.
Yeah.
Shuffle, stomp, repeat.
See,
Deep
mine
Shade of
would be
Blue.
the opposite, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't delete 5, 6, 7, 8 just because it gave this all to you.
I know.
I'd shuffle 5, 6, 7, 8.
Really?
Delete
Yeah.
stomp
I'd delete Stomp if I had to.
do Deep Shade of
and play Deep
yeah,
Shade of Blue.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll go with
Okay, now Steps covers. So you've got Tragedy, Better the Devil You Know, and Chain Reaction. Which do you shuffle, which do you delete, which do you repeat?
You know what? If it was performing them, it would be very different to just listening to them.
I know which one you're going with that.
I know, yeah, exactly. Because Chain Reaction I love, but I don't like performing it.
It's
this
got
is
quite a
listening.
complex routine,
Yeah.
that's why.
that. Well, I didn't even remember it.
Exactly.
Definitely repeat Tragedy because it was our first number 1.
Yeah.
That's a special one for us.
Delete Better the Devil.
Sorry, Kylie.
Then Steps ballads, okay? So you've got Heartbeat. It's the Way You Make Me Feel. And Words Not Enough.
Well, my favourite song is
Repeat
It's the Way.
You Make You Feel.
So
Yeah.
You've got to
Has to
repeat
stay.
that.
Delete Words Are Not Enough.
Why is that?
I don't know, I don't really like that one.
Good reason. Very good reason.
Full Heartbeat.
And then you've got Steps Reformed, okay? So obviously Scared of the Dark. Story of a Heart. light up the world. Which do you delete?
Oh, that's hard.
Which do you shuffle and which do you repeat? This is the hardest because it's your new song.
I think Scared of the Dark's got to be repeat, maybe. Delete Light Up the World and shuffle Story of a Heart.
See, I'd delete Story of a Heart and shuffle Light Up the World.
Delete.
I'm just saying, I'm sorry.
Lee, it's your current single written by ABBA.
Don't take any notes.
I like Light Up the World. I think it's a beautiful song.
One final Bizzare challenge, okay? And this is our Bizzare accent challenge. So, which of you are good at accents?
Claire's actually very good. I don't want to big you up here and for
Okay.
the fall, but...
Well, Claire, I think you can kick it off, and then you guys can be there for support if you're better at this particular accent. So I've got the lyrics to 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to read them out, okay, and start in your normal voice. And then I'm going to holler an accent, and you've got to immediately change into that.
This is going to go down like a lead
nervous, but okay.
So, kick off.
My boot scooting baby is driving me crazy. My obsession.
Scottish.
Obsession from a western. Me dance floor date. Me Romeo. Me a cowboy.
Geordie.
Biker Grove.
Better get in
It's
line. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Australian.
My boot scooting baby is driving me. Oh no, that's
like Southern American.
You're like Nashville all of a sudden. What's Australian?
It's like, g'day, mate.
G'day, mate.
My boots.
Boat scooting baby.
Oh, just speak it.
It's hard.
I can't do it.
Okay, Lisa, I'm going to give you Italian.
Oh, come on, it's easy.
Italiano. My foot kicking, finger chicken, laughing.
She's got KFC on the brain.
Bellissimo. Hands clapping, hip bumping, museo thumping.
And we will
I love
end,
that music.
whoever wants to take it on, with Russian.
Okay, where are we? I'll do that.
Foot kicking, finger clicking, leather slapping.
Doggy, foot
Hands
clicking,
clapping.
finger clicking, leather slapping, hand clapping, hip bumping, music thumping, knee hitching, heel and
Katia
toe.
from RuPaul.
I'm a foot scuffing, leg shuffling, big grinning and body spinning, a rumping, stomping, bumping, jumping, sliding, gliding. Here we go.
Oh! So Lee's got a little secret career going on.
To do that in that show.
That
I was
was
Russian.
brilliant.
He was Russian in the show.
I had to be Moldovan.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today on Bizzare Life. Of course, the current single is Story of a Heart, which is such a good song. I mean, Lee might hate it, but I absolutely love
I don't hate it.
given it's written by ABBA. And of course, the tour coming up later this year, I think what kicks off in November. And guys, the incredible thing is here, the sales were so huge, you've added 7 extra dates, which are
15.
also nearly sold out.
Now 22.
So the Party on the Dance Floor tour, you can get tickets now.
Yes.
And obviously you can stream the album and all of that type of thing. Steps, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
And make sure, and I know you guys are all going to do it now because you're not podcast listeners, but you're going to subscribe to this feed because, you know, we've got brilliant interviews which you can go back and listen to.
Dan, how do you do that?
Yes.
Okay, so basically just on, you've got to go into iTunes, okay, or any podcast provider, there's loads, and you just search for Bizzare Life with Dan Wootton. You hit the subscribe button and then you get the interview every week. And you can also listen through our back catalogue. We've got Celine Dion.
Wow.
We've
going
got
to see Celine in July.
Liam Payne, Jerry, obviously, Horner, Niall Horan, Rita Ora, Shawn Mendes, loads and
We're in
loads
good
of great
company.
big names. You absolutely are. So I'm going to get you into podcasts after today. I'm determined. Okay?
Let's do it.
So make sure you do it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.